Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest aliens and UFOs video. Once again, I'm going to feature another set of creepy encounters that someone had with a potential alien or gray, or in this case, it could actually be something associated with the Venusians. I've talked about those strange people in the past, the way they have always these odd encounters with us humans, and the way they look and the way they stand out. I think that's what the case is here. It's always a fan favorite too. There's always a good set of views and good set of comments associated with them, so I thought why not showcase this one here, and it is richly detailed as well. Once again, it comes from the reddit.com website, but they're from the subreddit Humanoid Encounters. It's from a user by the name of Shugazi, and they titled theirs, "Has anyone else encountered people that didn't seem to actually be people?" So right there, it can tell you exactly what this is going to entail. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. And then once again, I'll give my thoughts and opinions on it. Let me know too if any of you out there have any encounters similar to what happened here. So here's what the user states. "I was wondering if anyone else has also had any experiences with people that didn't quite seem to be people. Like there was something off about them. I had an experience some time ago that I've never could shake off." So this happened in Charleston, South Carolina around Xmas of 2017. I used to work at a popular coffee shop that was inside a popular big box retail store. One day around Xmas time, I had two guests that struck me as odd immediately. They were pale Caucasian women, probably mid-20s, that both looked nearly identical, but one was about a head taller. They had the exact same haircut, very straight platinum blonde bowl-like cuts. Their faces were quite round, and their eyes were a noticeably bright hazel color and appeared quite large, but not in like a disproportionate gray alien kind of way. They both also had a fairly odd stiff gait, as though they had a board strapped to their back. They sort of shuffled their feet around when they walked. They both also had an oversized sweater, and I noticed later the shorter one had theirs on backwards. The weird part was their behavior. When they first walked in, the shorter one looked around the store as if they've never been in one. Her overall demeanor was somewhat childlike. Like a good customer service rep, I welcomed them in and told them to ask if they had any questions. The short girl looked to the taller one as if for approval. She then slowly nodded her head towards me, mouth slightly agape, and then attempted a hand wave. Instead of waving at the wrists like most people, she waves with her forearm, palm flat and straight in a sort of robotic windshield wiper-like motion. She then turns to the taller one, who gives her an encouraging nod. They then proceeded to walk around the cafe, looking at the cups and merchandise. The short girl would often point all around the store and seem to be asking the taller one questions, almost as if this was a guided tour of sorts. Now, obviously, I'm no linguist, but my city is a fairly popular tourist destination, and I met foreigners from all over the globe. Even if I don't recognize a specific language, I can usually estimate roundabout where it may be from, whether it's Germanic, Slavic, Asiatic, Mid-Eastern, etc., at least in origin. But the language they spoke to each other was very strange and not like one I've heard before. Imagine, if you will, a mixed Simlish with a baby babble and then sped it up. Lots of g, blah, and oo sounds. They continued on checking out the merchandise and going on what seemed to be a Q&A session. They would often open up cups and look inside. They would grab bags of beans and squeeze and shake them. At one point, the shorter one took apart a French press, and the taller one seemed to try to explain what it was for. This went on for about 10 minutes or so when the short one picked out a studded cup to purchase. She shuffles her way over to the POS station, puts the cup on the counter, frequently looking towards her friend as if looking for reassurance, who again does a simple nod in encouragement. She then looks towards me and attempts to smile, which was just baring her perfectly straight white top teeth as though she were biting her bottom lip and slowly nodding, not saying a word. It was here that I noticed her sweater was on backwards, the tag sticking out in the front of her neck. Now that I had a good look, I will say she was quite oddly attractive, but there was something that was about her appearance that gave me an uncanny valley vibe, but I couldn't tell you exactly what was off. I will say I don't recall them ever blinking. So I scanned the cup and went on the typical checkout spiel, to which there was no reply. When it was time to pay, she pulled out a silver credit card that had no markings whatsoever. No logos, no numbers, no name. Just a blank plastic with a chip. She then looks back to her taller one and says something, who then comes over and finishes the transaction for her, showing her as though it was a teaching moment. And so I hand her the cup, and she once again slowly nods her head, mouth ajar, and does her windshield wiper wave. They then shuffle their way out of the cafe into the rest of the store, and I never saw them again. I've told this story to people before, and they usually hand wave it and say they were probably just tourists from Europe, or maybe they had a condition of sorts. But like I've said, I've encountered many foreigners, and none of them acted this much like a fish out of water, nor was their overall demeanor and behavior this uncanny. I won't rule it out as a possibility, of course, but it just doesn't quite sit satisfactory for me. It was just too weird. I don't know what you guys think. Have any of you experienced anything similar? And then that's it. Although actually the user, Shugazi, has an extra bonus. I think this is the first time where they expounded upon a lot of things. So I'm going to share that here now. This is what she says. Edit. First of all, I never anticipated this post blowing up like this. Thank you all for the awards, stories, and theories you're sharing. This has been a fun ride. I appreciate you all. I mostly wanted to reiterate and expound on a few points. When typing this out initially, I wanted to try and make sure I didn't use any specific language that would lead on any particular conclusion, despite my personal view on the situation. I wanted to keep it as neutral as possible and allow room for speculation and discussion amongst y'all. I.e., I didn't want to come out and say, yeah, they were totally aliens when they could have been other explanations. But I think in doing so, I undersold how weird the situation really was and why I felt it was worth sharing. So here's a few slightly more in-depth details. I mentioned how they were practically identical. They were. Exact age, exact complexion, exact hairstyle, exact same overall presence and demeanor. There were only 4 differences I noticed. Their height, the sweaters they were wearing, the taller one's nose, which was slightly more sharp and angular, and the shorter one's speech, which was faster. I've seen people mention that they were a mother or daughter, or maybe a caretaker-patient situation, which is simply not possible unless they reproduced by mitosis. Twin sisters, maybe. For sure, that could work. I mentioned that their eyes seemed big. I know it said it wasn't as disproportionate as a gray alien, which is true, but I should have emphasized that they still appeared much bigger than they should have been. I mentioned in the comment below that their skin was absolutely flawless and clear. No scars, blemishes, creases. I couldn't even make out any visible pores. Like wearing an Instagram filter almost. Their complexion had an almost ethereal quality to it. I mentioned how they would point around the store and seem to be doing a Q&A. I should have emphasized they pointed at nearly everything, from the signs on the board, the equipment behind the counter, the shopping carts, even the automatic sliding door at the front of the store. It really reinforced the idea the short one, at least, hasn't seen a place like this before. As for the autism angle I've seen mentioned, I've already made a comment below, but in short, I never got the impression that this was the case. I've met and interacted with plenty of people on the spectrum before, language barrier or no, and not once had any of them made me think, yeah, I'm not sure if this person is human. This situation was different. That said, due to the nature of autism, there is always the possibility I'm wrong. And that's about all I feel it needs any more emphasizing at the moment. I might update again if I see another point I feel should be reiterated. And then that's truly it. That's everything that the user mentioned. So let's talk about that here. So those of you in Charleston, South Carolina, the lady didn't mention a specific spot, unfortunately. I hate it when they do that. But she said it was a popular coffee shop at a popular big box retail store. So take that what that is. You may have a chance, if you know what she's talking about, of visiting that location and realizing, wow, this could be a spot where 2 Venetians were actually there. That's again why I think they're Venetians. So many things tied to it. They were both they were Caucasian looking. They both had a straight platinum blonde bowl cut. Their faces, and for that matter, the rest of their skin was absolutely flawless. They had these eyes that were gigantic, larger in other words, than a regular humans, and they had a bright hazel color to them. And the way they moved, and they had an odd stiff gait to them, it was again reminiscent of the movement of Venusians. So is this it? Do you think that that's the case, that that's what occurred here? That's two of them visited for whatever reason this coffee shop, and then once they were inside, one of them, who seemed like more of an experienced Venusian than the other one, was able to tell the other one in their odd language how and what was happening and what these were, what these items were, stuff like that. So if you think that's the case, let me know. If you think it's something else, I'd love to see what your comments are as well. The other thing that stood out too is Venusians have credit cards. How about that? A silver credit card that had no logos, no numbers, no name, just a regular chip. Like the other rest of the card was just blank, but there was a chip on it, and then that was it. Isn't that crazy? Apparently they can pay by credit cards, and there they were buying a trinket, like a little gift as well. That's a first too. So let me know what you guys and gals think. All right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.